Good morning. We will call the...
How did thing end up good with HP's?
Wright County Commissioners Board to order for May 18th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kind of nice to see a bunch of faces today.
No, who are these people?
And hear all the voices doing the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. The minutes from May 4th. Does anybody have any corrections or changes?
Mr. Chair, I have a kind of a tweak or clarification on page 3. It would be the second paragraph up from items for consideration. And basically the last sentence that it was if Deering was operating a business in the property, he would have to have a CUP. Not that he would have to stop, because it was kind of unclear whether there was really running a business from there or not, and what constituted a business. So it would basically be if he does not have a CUP. Does that make sense, Angie? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have anything they want to add or change? Not?
I will make a motion then, Mr. Chair, to accept the minutes with that little change.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of the agenda. Is there anything that needs to get added to the agenda?
I have nothing to add, sir.
All right. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll second. Oh, Mary.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Vetch will be joining us remotely a little bit later in the meeting. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like removed for further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark.
he is an Adam 2 for a couple questions on the dental clinic contract.
Well, this, I think, I was intending on pulling this also. We will discuss this when we talk about the minutes from that meeting.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that's where it belongs. No reason to have before we have the minutes to discuss it.
Okay. Then next would be 3, for discussion on the ABM cleaning contract. And then under B as in boy 2, just a couple expenditures to clarify on the warrants from the last 2 weeks.
Anybody else have anything else? If not, I will hear.
I'll make a motion then to accept the consent agenda with those couple items pulled.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Frank, keep an eye out so when you see Commissioner Vetch. Thank you. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first item pulled was A as in Adam 3, and that was approve and authorize the signature to extend the ABM cleaning services contract for 1 year. I went over this. I went over the handout that provided information, and I have probably 6 or 7 questions related to this. It's a $625,000 contract plus supplies that we provide, and I don't know if you want to go into that here or if we want to schedule that for another opportunity to discuss.
Did you contact anybody regarding these questions?
No.
Well, then I would suggest that we do send it to a committee.
And what I'd suggested, unless maybe they're here now, would be a representative from ABM that would be available for questions also. It is a large contract, and that would be helpful.
There's
Morning, Mr. Chair and Board. Just to speak to what is in front of you, it's not a new contract. This is a contract we had discussed at budget a few years back when we made a transition from our custodial staff going to an outside cleaning service. Their term is expired 2 weeks ago, and this is really a bridge extension to get us through the transitions of the new building. So we've got the Justice Center came online, this reduction, the Government Center coming online. So this is a request for a 1-year extension, in which then we would go to an RFP or discussion at budget time, I guess, if we're planning to stick with the outside service or to staff in-house. So this is really kind of a bridge extension to get us to that point, open any discussion or questions about it to that point. But that's just a little bit of background, I guess, as to what's in front of you. It's not a new staffing request. It's not a new contract. It's really an extension of the existing services.
And we have this in the budget, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure some, do you have a question?
I guess I know we're not specifically discussing this now, but yes, we, when we went with this, we found, savings. But there again, it doesn't hurt to, revisit this and to, look to see what we're doing, rather than having higher paid, I guess you'd say, people with benefits, doing the cleaning, the custodial work. They're doing more of the maintenance things and, some of the more specialized things like electrical, and so it was vetted very well, and we found a great savings. But it's good to have that discussion again, and I perhaps move it to the we have our committee of the whole coming up that we have to set, so maybe we could add it to that.
My only concern is that if their contract has already expired, do they have any issues with continuing? Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Thank you. And just to clarify, I'm not proposing that we're going to evaluate the in-house versus the contract. I'm just trying to clarify and explain a few things out of the services that we're getting and in that direction going forward. So I just wanted to clarify, I'm not putting our boys in blue up here to debate whether we do that versus a cleaning company. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, the other item?
Okay. Oh, just to clarify, we had 2 weeks of disbursements, of course, to go over because we had a workshop last Tuesday. So just did a little research on some of these things laden with acronyms and descriptions. But just to clarify a couple things, there's one called Tyler Technologies Incorporated for $52,800, and it says SAAS CAMA software. That's a computer-aided mass appraisal system for the assessor's office. There was a expenditure for the Star Tribune for $4,499.04, and it turns out that is providing inmate reading material in the jail. There was a charge of $2,873 to Sky North Software LLC. That was consulting services for IT for Office 365 subscriptions. There was a charge of $23,395 to Diamond Tower Service Incorporated, completion of tower install. I inquired where the tower install was and found that it was a dispatch radio tower that was installed at the training center location. There's a charge to Department of Corrections for $20,470. The description is April 2021 juvenile correction fees. Turns out that is for 3 juvenile offenders that were placed at the Red Wing facility for the month of April. There was a charge to Buffalo Township for $4,600 for snow and ice control maintenance. I talked with Virgil, that's a road swap agreement where we have taken over a township road and the township has taken over a county road, and that's the difference that we pay them to do that part as part of a 2-year agreement. And that's all I had.
Could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda with those clarifications.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Newsom. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right. Tanya West.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I have another plat for approval today. This plat is Franklin Woods. It's located in Franklin Township. Includes 6 new lots. And I need your approval for final signature. We have received the final approval from Greg Kreiser, and this was signed off by the Planning Commission last Thursday.
Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal to authorize the recording of Franklin Woods in Franklin Township.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Vetch, are you on with us now?
There he is.
Mr. Chair, I am online now. Thank you. I apologize for the delay.
We need to do a roll call vote now. One.
All righty. Mr. Detchen.
You got the A team today, Mr. Chair. We're here on 2 ditch items today, Mr. Chair.
Only
Members of the
2?
board,
I saw that's 3 on here.
at least 2. We have CD 24 and CD 39. That's also, so, I guess, Matt, do you want to do the minutes first or resolutions? Jump right in.
Yeah, so the item number 1. So item number 1 is the approval of minutes from the County Ditch 24 and County Ditch 39 public hearings on April 27th, 2021 regarding the petition from MnDOT to replace culverts on I-94.
Anybody have any questions?
I will make a motion to approve
The minutes?
the minutes, yes, from on County Dish 24 and County Dish 39.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Newsom, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any other discussions? That is the fastest minutes on a ditch I have ever.
We can start talking about comma placement if you want. We can holler up here.
No, that's right. We're going to let it go fast this time. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There.
Commissioner Vetch votes aye.
You got to do a roll call.
Sorry.
Ketchmark, aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the board, then we have the 2 resolutions. The first resolution acting in your capacity as the Drainage Authority for CD 24 is the resolution for finding an order adopting a petition to alter a public drainage system under a trunk highway, namely Interstate 94. Again, this is off of the minutes from April 27th. On CD 24, you have 1 condition, which is that they comply with the plans submitted on file.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Ketchmark?
Thanks, Mr. Kreiser. I'd like to bring your attention to item 8 on that resolution. And the way I read that, well, read it over and see if that's the way you want it to state as far as that it will not affect or impair. It looks like maybe the word not shouldn't be in there, or?
You gotta remember, you're talking legalese, and they throw
Well,
all sorts of words in there.
I read it a couple of times, and it looks like there's no evidence to show that it will not affect or impair, and I believe you want it to read that no evidence to show that it will affect or impair the efficiency, is that right?
But it's the same. Not affect efficiency.
What's your legal opinion, Greg?
I think it's correct as written, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I interrupted.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ketchmark, the wordage at the end there came right out of the statute. So you're approving it because you find that there will not be, that there is, you approve this petition, or you're required to approve it if the petition will not affect or impair the efficiency of CD 24. So that phrase is directly out of the statute.
Okay, it just,
I get it, yeah. What basically you're saying is there's no evidence to show, there's no credible evidence that we see in the record to say that this petition, and I agree with you here, but there's nothing to show here that it will affect or impair CD
it says will
24.
not.
Yes, I get the double negative there, but yes.
Okay,
yeah,
well, if
yeah.
that's the way it's intended and implied, then,
I think
all
so.
right.
I think this discussion here clarifies it too, if anyone has any questions as to the ambiguity of it as well.
And sure, thank you. And that was the same on the next one. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ketchmark, if you remember, on this one, I think we had 3 engineering opinions. At least two outside engineering opinions on this one that said it would not affect
Right.
CD 24 efficiency. So
That's
you
right.
had a couple comments that came up here and tried to refute that, but yeah, nothing scientifically based in those comments.
Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept let's see, the Drainage Authority resolution on ditch 24.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Weller, second by Commissioner Hewson. Any further discussions? Roll call vote. Commissioner Vetch?
Commissioner Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous.
And then, Mr. Chair, acting in your capacity as the Drainage Authority for County Ditch 39, same resolution, or same title, findings and order approving a petition to alter a public drainage system under a trunk highway. Again, Interstate 94. This one, staff, underneath your direction, came up with 3 conditions. At the end, number 1, they have to comply with the plans submitted on file. And then number 2, we have some invert elevations that we need the culvert set at, the 2 barrels. And then also requiring the southern upstream inlet of the culverts to be bank stabilized and protected with riprap.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion with the resolution altering a public drainage ditch on County Ditch 39.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewson. Any further discussions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Vetch?
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous.
Thank you.
What? We're done?
Done.
With
Let's hear more
ditches?
from Matt.
Wow, that's what fastest. Oh, you got more.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ketchmark.
thank you. Just a question, as long as you're up here, on a lot of people's minds about the County 6 culvert replacement and the road obstruction closure, can you give us an update on the time frame with that?
Barring any setbacks, we are hoping to have it completed, the culvert placed at the Friday afternoon, with paving following the next week. As you know, and we've had multiple discussions, there were a few issues that arose, mainly with utilities. The utility company is tasked with doing the relocation of a utility line that was previously in the plan specs supposed to be below our subgrade of the culverts. When we did a follow-up utility locate, we found that it was about 1 feet below the current culvert. So when we lowered that culvert to 3 feet, it would impact that fiber line. So they are currently working on that, but the substantial completion for the culvert and reopening the road should be completed, we're hoping, early next week. So
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Hughes?
How will this rain that's supposedly coming, how will that affect it? Does it, we don't know how much is gonna fall, so how much would it take to, upset that whole timeline?
Yeah, that is a good question. That will be, at the discretion of the contractor with safety conditions. Obviously, that's my first priority with working on a project like this, is the safety of the crew. If it does cause issues, they are, lowering a culvert a significant depth, and there is a large trench. So if there's any safety hazards created by the rain with their equipment potentially falling in, that could further push back the project. So.
How is their soil conditions out over there?
Good. As far as compaction after replacement, it's been good. They were originally working on a gradation report for the bimultuous paving to use it as a class 5. They've since decided not to use that, so we should get good compaction. There was, in some areas on that part of the highway, over 30 inches of bimultuous. So we will not be replacing all of that. That is pretty extensive, but we will put additional sand bedding down so that we won't have any issues in the future.
Good.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep. You had another question as well about the culvert sections.
Oh, yeah, there was discussion that what could delay it further is if they find cracked or otherwise damaged culverts that are existing, and I'm just wondering if we have an update on those sections yet, because they're a special order if they do find that. Have they been able to inspect or?
Yeah, so they were originally inspected 2 years ago, before this plan was in place. They were re-inspected again on site when the water was drained out. They appear to be in good condition. If something happens during construction and they break or damage one, the contractor is responsible to pay to replace those, since they have been inspected and they are in good condition. If it's just a single section, a 6-foot section of that culvert, we will be able to finish construction. We have plans to put concrete barriers on the shoulder, have that next section remade, place when it is completed, and then add the apron on the upstream end. So it shouldn't, unless there's multiple sections that are broken, shouldn't push that back. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that everything will be installed correctly. So.
Good, and thank you. I know you're spending a lot of time out there and keeping up with it all, and it's not going unnoticed, so thanks for the updates.
Yeah, could I take a second too? I just wanted to thank the Sheriff's Department since they are here. There were some issues that we had, people driving through barriers, breaking out windows, stuff to that nature. They were more than gracious sending additional officers out there to help, and it has improved significantly, so I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Yeah, sorry to hear that you had problems out there. Difficult.
It's a ditch project, there's definitely going to be problems, right?
By somebody, yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Let's go to items for consideration. Administration designate the week of May 16th through 22nd as Emergency Medical Services Week. Is this you, Commissioner Houston?
Yeah, thank you. I did request that this be adopted. It's a proclamation, and it is to designate the week of May 16th to the 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Whereas the Emergency Medical Services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of Emergency Medical Services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas Emergency Medical Services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine, and whereas the Emergency Medical Services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And I guess there's more. And whereas members of the Emergency Medical Services team with a career volunteer engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills, and whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week, now therefore we, the Wright County Board of Commissioners, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16th through the 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week. With the EMS strong theme, this is EMS, caring for our communities, I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to accept the resolution declaring this week as EMS Week.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Wetter. So what are you, when you're saying to recognize these emergency medical services people, are you suggesting people bring them chocolate chip cookies or?
That would be very nice.
Oh, okay. I was just kind of curious. So.
And, you know, maybe when Commissioner Ketchmark goes to the local EMS meeting tomorrow night, he can
Bring chocolate chip cookies?
ask what they, yeah, ask what they want.
Oh, okay.
Put out a survey, what would you like me to bring? No. So,
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Resolution, Commissioner Vetch.
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous. We got a couple of minutes yet before the public hearing. Schedule Committee of the Whole meeting on Tuesday, May 25th at 10:30 a.m. for tobacco compliance check violation hearing.
Does that item work for the schedule? We did have that violation take place. I had looked at the date, the 25th was recommended after the board meeting next week, so.
Does next week, Tuesday, have issues for anybody?
Just a moment.
Mr. Chair, it works for me.
Fifth.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to set that tobacco compliance meeting for Tuesday, May 25th at 10:30 a.m.
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch. Mary, that works for you?
Yes, it does.
All right.
Thank you.
So we will deal with that compliance check violation hearing next week at 10:30 a.m. All right. Roll call vote. Commissioner Vetch.
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. 9:28.
Good time.
We got a couple of more minutes here yet. Schedule a committee of the whole meeting to discuss the following topics: Buffalo Clinic Memorial, American Rescue Plan, Commissioner space in the new government center, and then we'll add that extend the ABM cleaning service contract to
Correct.
that also. What dates work for people? Tuesday
Kelly,
afternoon?
did you have any suggestions, Mr.?
Knowing we had filled up after the meeting next Tuesday, if you wanted to follow a Tuesday, you'd be out till the June 1st meeting. That was going to be my suggestion.
Works for me.
Is there anything more timely that we need to deal with for that?
I don't think so. Hopefully by that time we'll have a little bit more information on the American Rescue Plan. June 1st work for you, Commissioner Vetch?
It does, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion to set the committee of the whole on June 1st at 10:30 following the county board meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor? I'm sorry.
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. I'm not used to you being off-site, Commissioner Vetch.
It is definitely different for myself, Mr. Chair.
At least, you know, if we could have a picture of you anyway, maybe that would help.
For whatever reason, I don't know, my camera won't allow me to switch it on. I'm guessing the bandwidth for where I'm at is not strong enough.
Yeah,
I do
All right, well, I guess
apologize,
that might
Mr.
be
Chair. I
better.
was trying to avoid this today.
yeah.
All righty. It is 9:30, public hearing to consider amendment interim ordinance number 21-1 solar farm energy moratorium to allow pending applications to proceed. Commissioner, or,
Yeah, oh,
Attorney.
don't elevate me in position yet. Mr. Chair.
lowly Attorney Kreis.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, before you is an amendment, proposed amendment to interim ordinance 21-1. I provided you with the strike-throughs that you have here. What is being proposed by staff is to strike section 2 on page 2, and also 1 or 2 words in the middle of section 1. The words "or pending" would be struck, and then we renumber the remaining sections after that. So what this would do is allow pending solar applications to go forward, and it would allow staff to, again, negotiate developer agreements on previously approved, or soon to be approved possibly, solar farms, CUPs. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, this is a public hearing, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark?
just a question. Do you know how many are pending for sure? That this affects?
Possibly 2.
Mr. Chair, County Board, Sean Riley, Wright County Planning and Zoning. I have to analyze our data again. I know we have 2 where the developers agreement could move forward. They have CUPs and could work on the developers agreement. And then at most, we have 2 that would be considered pending that could move forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we have public hearing. Is anybody, we'll open the public hearing now. Anybody have anything that they would like to add for it? If you are interested, there's a signage sheet here. I need your name and address, and head to the podium. So does anybody have anything they would like to state during the public hearing? Does anybody have anything they would like to state during the public hearing? Does anybody have anything they would like to state for the public hearing? If not, I will close the public hearing. All right, so we have an interim amendment.
Yes, Mr. Chair, an amendment to interim ordinance number 21-1. If it suits the board, staff would request that you adopt it as presented.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to adopt the solar amendment as proposed.
I'll second.
Mr. Chair, a follow-up question. In a separate motion, can we lift the moratorium for pending applications as part of this motion, or would that need to be a second motion?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, that's included in this. If you look at
Okay.
section 1,
Okay.
midway
Now I
down,
see
we're
it.
deleting the words "or pending."
Or pending, okay. Now it makes sense to me. Okay.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, thank you, and Attorney Kreiser for clarifying that, because we wanted to make sure that everyone recognizes that, not to stop what's pending, just to get more information going forward.
All right, so I have a motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. He was just a little bit faster, Mary.
I don't care. I mean, I'm going to vote anyway, so.
This is a resolution. Commissioner Vetch.
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Aye, see, I voted.
Resolution carries unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We have to. All right. Department budget review. I think that's where we're at right now. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank
Good
you,
morning,
Director.
Board. Jamie Gudrum-Schwartz, Health and Human Services.
Thanks for coming in. And we talked a little and some emails back and forth and narrowed down to a few questions left that it just seemed like best to have just a verbal narrative explanation to a couple things. And some of the back and forth that we had, I'll just point out a couple of things was that drew attention. For example, was there's a procedure and a process for financial assistance for county burials if needed. And there was a budget of $55,000 and $38,587.56 was spent. And it was interesting with last year because of COVID, a lot of unexpected people passing away for different reasons, and this is in place to help people with financial hardship. So I inquired as to how that got offset. I'm not only looking for just overages, but underages in the budget also for explanation. Turns out there was some education that was given, financial services, and it changed a little bit on the parameters and protocol and when.
I'd like to credit Kim with kind of creating a new line, I guess, as far as when the county will pay for indigent burials, and obviously did a good job, because I think not too many years ago, we were upwards of about $70,000, and this is county levy dollars, so.
Well, thank you, Kim. And I've already had inquiries that, and we've talked about some specific cases related to this.
Great.
So it is out there, people know they're utilizing it, and it was good to find out what that difference was this year.
I would say another thing that maybe wasn't in here is that there's been a definite trend toward cremations,
Right.
which are less expensive than the burials, so we are seeing that as well, impacting that budget.
Thank you. And then we had it narrowed down to an item called Northwood's fraud control on $130,000 budgeted and $170,210 spent. And then these three things kind of tied together, it seemed like, but you can separate and clear it up for us. But the professional services part, $52,041.25. And then full-time personnel, $14,078.51 spent, budgeted $52,579. If you could kind of explain how some of that was money spent but no budget and vice versa, and maybe what that professional services included a little bit?
I'll try. Actually, I'm going to probably ask Christine to join us, as she probably has a better definition of this. I would like to just point out to the board, and you are all aware of this, that when we set our budget in the middle of the prior year and we're making estimates for how it'll be used, anywhere from 6 months to 18 years after that, and given us, I would say primarily in DHS and MDH, the quickness of changes that are made, we oftentimes do end up with differences in our budget. Usually we're pretty close as far as the overall picture. And to those professional services and salaries, I will let Christine talk.
So Commissioner Ketchmark, I do have an email ready to go to you that lays everything out line by line, but the two are not necessarily related. The contract for Northwoods, we had two contracts. One was on a calendar year, one was on a state fiscal year. We combined those and increased the total contract because we had applied for and received additional state funding for the fraud prevention. So what you're seeing in the budget is related to the fact that we did increase the contract. The budget amount doesn't always align with the spending pattern with the one contract that's on the state fiscal year, because it runs July through June, so it doesn't spend evenly in alignment with the calendar year. Then the second piece, the budget for the full-time personnel, as I had mentioned in the first response, we didn't set the budget, and digging through it with the finance department yesterday afternoon, when the budget was modified to adopt the class and comp, there was 1% transposed. So fraud prevention receives a portion of different salary budgets, Kim's, mine, several other team members, and we had provided a certain person, I think was at 5%, and it got keyed in at 27.55%, which inflated the budget. The class and comp allocation was done correctly. It was just the budget move from one category down into this fraud category was too high and not in relation to, that's why the budget looks so out of alignment.
Okay,
So
all
I'll
right.
get this sent off to you after the meeting. If you have any more questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in, and like I said, it's not pointing out necessarily what went wrong, it's just a little explanation to clarify and see if there's any trends or goals we should look
It's
at.
interesting, when we look into it too, it's like, oh, that's what happened, because again, these things kind of come and go. One of the issues that you raised, Commissioner Ketchmark, was we weren't bringing in as much revenue in one of our 420, it's in our actually SNAP food program area. And looking at it, we discovered it's because when the Fed said that we're not stopping food support for people that are currently on it, and they don't need to renew, then of course our staff weren't spending time in that program, so they weren't submitting IMRMS things back to that, and so, they're spending their time in other programs. So, I mean, when you do dig back, which you don't know in the future how it's going to look out, the answers are typically there, but it takes a little bit of digging.
Well, thanks for digging.
Yeah, Kim did have a couple of slides, if you don't mind listening to them, just about kind of an overview. And again, because of our size of our department, we'll be back 2 more times with our other departments for if you see things in those budget reviews that you'd like to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Kim.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. I would just like to take a moment to show you how our organizational chart looks. You probably have it in your packet, and here it is on the screen. So financial services is made up of 2 areas. It's financial assistance and child support. Financial assistance consists of 40 staff members split into 3 teams. There's an adult family and an adult family LTC team and a healthcare team. The financial assistance area determines eligibility for all of the programs that we administer up on the 3rd floor. Child support consists of 17 staff, and they establish paternity, they modify orders, and they enforce court orders. The budget in financial services is mainly funded by pass-through dollars from the federal and state government. Much of this funding comes to us through the income maintenance random moment study, which Jamie just talked about. And the reimbursement amount for financial assistance is approximately 50%, and child support is approximately 66% of their overall budget. So very highly reimbursed areas for the county, which is a good thing. Does anybody have any questions? Kind of short and sweet.
No, I just wish that they quit calling us at lunchtime when, for the random motion.
Or,
So we can't say
or
that-
outside of business hours?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be kind of a challenge.
Thanks, Kim.
Any other
Yeah,
questions?
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kim. All righty.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Vetch.
I just wanted to make a quick little clarification because the reimbursement cost, like for the financial services, the 50% is on our operational costs, not in the actual reimbursement for the cost of the services, like for waivered fees or waiver dollars or medical insurance. It's the 50% reimbursement on our staff time and operational costs. It's a different reimbursement amount for the actual medical insurance or the food assistance, the SNAP, or the whatever it may be, waiver dollars, etc.
Yeah, it's just for our time, our personnel.
Yeah, and that's why I just want to make sure that was clear. I didn't want anybody to see those numbers and think that, whoa, the county is actually paying 50% on the actual health insurance or things of that nature.
Okay. Any other questions or anything? All right, item 5, add Highway 12 Safety Coalition to the committee listing.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Or-
So,
Oh, yeah.
do you want to speak to that, Mike?
Oh, I can. I didn't realize that made it on here already, but, of course, there's 64 committees and boards, I think at last count, maybe a couple more, but
I think there's more now.
Yes, but the Highway 12 Coalition been in existence for a few years. Commissioner Burrell used to participate and attend, but it's not on the list of our boards and committees. And I think it's important to have representation of county, township, and city officials on this because it is a U.S. highway, Highway 12, that goes through Wright County from one end to the other. So it's every other month meeting that is made up of law enforcement and city officials from Wright County and Hennepin County. But I'm going to look to try and recruit some more participation from the Wright County side because a lot of the attention focuses from east of Delano toward Wayzata, Orono area. And a lot of us, especially in the south part of the county, use Highway 12. So I'm looking to have this recognized, and I would volunteer to serve on that coalition for the Highway 12 Coalition.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to add the Highway 25 corridor, or coalition.
12.
I'm sorry, 12.
It does intersect.
Okay, it does intersect, yeah. And appoint Commissioner Ketchmark as the representative.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Wetter. Yeah, and 12 has also been known for an incredible amount of accidents. I don't know how many have been in the Wright County area. I know there's been an incredible amount of in Hennepin County.
We've had fatalities in Wright County.
And 12. All right. Roll call vote. Commissioner Vetch.
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. All right, Committee of the Whole. Who did I volunteer to do that one?
That was me, Mr. Chair. Okay.
Ketchmark.
So we met Committee of the Whole May 4th, 2021, talked about the American Rescue Plan. And basically we're waiting for guidance from the Department of Treasury on the allowable use of funds. First payment is due within 60 days of March 12th. Health and Human Services Director Schwartz came forward with 6 ideas, possibilities for the fund usage that included transportation to our campus and to emergency mental health services, programmable sign for their use, some transitional housing for homeless. And then broadband was discussed. Commissioner Vetch recommended that he would like the opportunity for municipalities to use a portion of the funding for water, sewer, and ditch projects. And recommendation was to schedule a broadband committee meeting on May 11th at 1 p.m. to further discuss broadband options. So I'd make a motion to accept the Committee of the Whole minutes
And the recommendations?
and the recommendation to schedule the broadband committee meeting on May 11th at 1 p.m.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Husum. Any further discussions? Hearing none, Commissioner Vetch.
Vetch votes aye. Sorry.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. Dental Clinic Project Steering Committee.
That's
Commissioner
me.
Wetter.
Okay, we met on May 5th. Commissioner Dahlheim, Commissioner Wetter, and Karen Kleinhans and Phil Lacker were there also, and others were present. We're talking about the 6,200 square foot and 12 rooms are proposed. Okay. We listened to 3 architect presentation, and Oro Merrick Architects from Burnsville was chosen. They had probably the best, all of us pretty much agreed they had the best presentation and also covered a lot of the things that we had questions about.
we compared all the three firms, and all the people in attendance agreed that or Myra Architects and Mohegan Hanson were the top two of the three. The Armera Architects had the lowest bid, and so it was most cost-effective for the project. And it was also, they were familiar with state bonding and had quite a bit of attention presented on detail. We were a little concerned because they are a small firm, but the two people had worked with them before from the, what's the CD?
Community Dental Clinic.
Okay, the CDC, Community Dental Clinic. And so we kind of hoped that somebody wouldn't go on vacation or something, but it sounded like they would do a good job. So the recommendation was that, let's see, Liz Carroll should follow up on their references, and if they checked out, we would send an email to the committee members and start drafting the contract for May 18th, this council meeting. And Carroll's, Wilczek and Goodrum Schwartz were going to tour Rochester and Maplewood Community Care Dental Clinics. Those were two of the clinics that they felt were about the same size as what was being proposed here. And I would suggest make the motion to accept these steering committee minutes for the dental clinic.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Wetter, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussions? Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Two things related to this. A while ago when I was doing some research and kind of following the timeline and the money trail for the update on the dental clinic, I found through CDC, the representative that's working on this, that Wright County paid almost $12,000 to an architect company for some building plans. So I'm wondering, I see these fees will be paid by a UCare grant. I'm wondering what fund paid almost $12,000 for those plans, and how did we or are we utilizing what we got for almost $12,000 from that architect company that the dental clinic wanted to use, but then it didn't work out?
Jamie?
Actually, I was looking to see if Sue Virgin was on the call, because Sue Virgin is the one that's been tracking these expenses. I see Lee is maybe smiling and maybe knows what I'm talking about, but my understanding is that we have been working, and those initial costs that were part of the plan to develop the space at the time that the building was going up for, I think, I'm not super clear on this, just so you know, but like for the water and things like that, that needed to be, if it was a dental clinic. So we brought in the, I think it was Woodseth, is that the claim you're referring to? Woodseth Architects?
I don't recall the name, Mr. Chair, but
I think it was Woodseth, and they charged us for that we had a contract with them to provide it, and that was covered under that UCare grant, and because the Auromira comes in at like 85,000 or something like that, there's sufficient funding to complete both of the architect's costs within that $100,000 grant that we received. And I know there was a communication from Sarah Grotius to UCare to make sure that the way that we were using the grant complied with how they set it out initially.
Mr. Ketchmark, because the building was being built, we had to get the water and the sewer to where it needed to be. Because we didn't want to tear up concrete and all that, so they had to figure out the volumes that were going to be required, along with some air handling and stuff like that too, so.
And I believe some costs were submitted that we didn't pay because they were outside of the parameters of what we had initially asked for. So I think our due diligence, I think, was, being used in that way as well.
So those drawings were useful,
Free.
necessary.
Administrator Kelly, I think it was described as pre-proposal or pre-something is what those were versus the architect's renderings that we would be looking for now from Aurora.
Yes, I guess that's how I would characterize it. We did need some preliminary information that was put together. As Jamie mentioned, there were some services that we were billed for that we disputed and ended up ultimately not paying as part of this as well, but we did need something initially. So as far as this, I think you spoke to it as well as you can. I had to laugh as Sue was the closest to it and Friday was her last day. So I certainly can dig back and get you a more detailed answer if you'd like that, but.
Okay, well, thank you, and I would like to see what we got for the 12,000. I mean, just because it came up that architect plans, now we're getting this, and I didn't see what we did or where it went, so.
Yeah, and I believe that they were captured in, because we went back to look and there was potential, I don't know if dispute's too strong of a word, when they were asking for additional, I think money maybe up to like another $5,000. We went back to look at the board minutes where it was included, so I believe that we can find that information in the board minutes from when that was first requested from them.
And the original architect wanted $120,000 to do the demo.
They were one of the 6 people, or 6 firms and they were not selected as the finalist. But I believe that Community Dental had used that same architectural firm in other areas, and that they were, certainly what we got from them, we felt was what we needed, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the minutes, and then we're going to vote on the contract. We have not voted on the minutes yet. And I had a first and a second. Commissioner Vetch on the minutes.
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. Now I'd like a motion on the contract that was on the consent agenda that we move to this area.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair, to,
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
Aurora Architects.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Vetch?
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes no.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 4-1. All righty. County Board Workshop. I believe I volunteered you for that, Administrator Kelly.
Yes, you did, sir. So a summary of the minutes from the May 11 workshop. All commissioners in attendance, in addition, quite a number of staff representing admin, IT, planning and zoning, finance, health and human services, highway and assessor, and auditor treasurer. First item we discussed was the parking lot, which is alongside the Buffalo Library, south of our current location. We did have an inquiry about selling that lot from the city of Buffalo. We had a little bit of discussion in how this relates to the study that's currently taking place with our EDA and our redevelopment of the current county courthouse site. The recommendation was to put this item on hold until after the next EDA meeting so we can discuss the RFPs for development. So more to come. Second item for discussion was regarding our compost facility. We had a brief overview from Bill Stevens regarding the compost facility and the services it's providing and some of the work that takes place out there. We did have a high-level discussion about if we could do more things with this facility, but Stevens certainly cautioned that with a recycling facility, whatever you take in, you have to have an outlet for recycling it. We cannot become a transfer station out there, so he felt that the way it's set up now, we pretty much maximize that usage, but open for discussion in the future. We did talk a little bit about the costs of operating the facility and did discuss also the value that it provides to the citizens. Want to make sure that we maintain that cost effectively so that this does not create issues with people choosing not to use the service and dumping where they shouldn't. Did talk about some of the issues out at the facility, just regarding updates and talking about some of the things that we are looking at regarding safety hazards and various site issues that we're working on. Did talk a bit about a meeting that took place between the Buffalo Fire Chief, John Harnois, and the county regarding a training facility that they're looking to construct. They had approached the board about potentially using the compost site as a location for that. Talked a little bit about the logistics of said facility if it were to move forward. Commissioner Ketchmark raised the potential of storage, knowing that the Fair Board makes quite a bit of money for their outdoor storage using the fairgrounds, and was hoping we would explore that possibility as well. So had some discussion about the future plans and assessing the current state of the facility out there at the compost site. So the recommendation was Stevens, Wilczek, Dahl to develop a service proposal for potential uses of the compost facility hangar, and a civil assessment to completed for the site with grading as a possible location for this fire department training facility. Third item discussed was county assessors, county assessing and local appraisers. Matthew Fomby, IT director, and Tony Rasmussen talked about the how they're legally liable for all the assessments done in the county, how we have independent assessors working in the county, and the county supports that and the technology related to it. Did speak a little bit about the switch to the new appraising system, or CAMA system that's in progress. Tim Dahl kind of went over some of the risk factors, and our recommendation was recommending that Tony Rasmussen develop a 2022, 2023, and 24 budget with revenue projections and expenses if the county were to be doing all the assessments with no independent assessors. Also, notice will be sent to the independent assessors. Let them know they will not have access to laptops unless they're on the campus at the county. The fourth item was around our enterprise resource planning, or ERP project. I kind of gave an overview of our timeline of the project up to this point and our planned first release in June. We were notified by the implementer vendor that they were not able to make the June deadline or the timeline for 2021 here. Talked a little bit about the cost of the project and what's been expended both for licenses, also to the implementation vendor and the change order. We had reviewed the contract with the implementation vendor with our legal team, and the county can terminate it with a 90 days written notice, which is what the recommendation was. The board recommend to send a letter to Cyber as of May 11th, 2021, ending the county's contract with them. The assessment will then be completed by another company to determine the current status of the ERP project and when it can go live. A summary of the minutes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I look for approval of the minutes and the recommendations regarding item 1, 2, and 4. Commissioner Houston?
Mr. Chair, I will make that motion, but I do have a couple of corrections on number 2. So on page 2 of...
Wait, let's get a second here
I'm sorry.
first.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the second paragraph on page 2, third line down, trainer Scott Carriveau is C-A-R-R-I-V-E-A-U, and I've already given Angie that spelling. And the other one, under the recommendation, it says a civil assessment but I think it would be more correct to say a civil engineer's assessment, just under the recommendation.
Civil engineer, or was it a structural engineer? I thought it was a structural engineer.
Well, a civil engineer is in the narrative, but under the recommendation, it just says a civil assessment.
yes,
So it should be engineers to clarify who the civil entity is.
Yeah, the idea is to find out if we can make the existing hangar enclosable and end up costing less to heat a building. But right now it costs us considerable amounts.
Right, and that actually isn't part of the recommendation, but that was discussed. This was more the site, that we needed to do a assessment of the whole site to see what would be feasible?
Well, that, yeah, but it also says potential use as a compost facility hangar, so I think was kind of part of that.
True.
Commissioner Kelly?
So the pieces that I'm talking with Alan yesterday, we walked away from is both looking at, as you said, the structural, probably that's going to be a civil engineer just to make sure everything would be able to, if we were to look at enclosing that area, just also kind of an assessment of the facilities on site. And then the second piece kind of related, as we took it, to the overall site, if you will, if that could be planned for that fire training facility, or if we were to look at a future plan of adding or changing operations out there with a drive-through facility, just to get a sense of if that would also be feasible. So,
Do you agree that it would be better to add civil engineers instead of civil assessment, or it's a clarification? I mean,
I think that would make sense as part of the recommendation under 2.
so does the seconder agree with that
Yes.
change?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions on items 1, 2, and 4?
Oh, did you say 4 too? 1 and 2.
Well, I also said 4.
Oh, did you? Okay.
So the minutes and the recommendations. All right, Commissioner Vetch?
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 Okay, regarding item 4,
Three.
no, I want to just, Matthew come up and talk about item 4, or maybe Lee can, about the letter that's been sent out already, so.
Sure.
The wheels have been in motion already on this.
Yeah, I can speak relative to item 4. As it was discussed, we did send notice to Cyber, which was our implementation company. As of the afternoon of the 11th, they have acknowledged said letter. We've closed off access to our part of our ERP project to them. We've had several discussions with potential firms to move forward with, and are working on getting proposals on what that would be for the first step. Looking again to first step being having another firm come in and do an assessment of what's been done to this point and what will need to be done to create a plan moving forward. So the first part would be to engage a contractor to do that first assessment and build a plan. Then we would look at creating a contract relative to the plan to complete that out. So timeline at this point is up in the air.
Will Oracle be part of that conversation? So they understand what Cyber hasn't done for us?
Correct. They have been to this point and are continuing to be in discussion. In fact, I actually got an email during the meeting from Cyber's rep. So ongoing discussions with Cyber at this, or excuse me, with Oracle at this point.
Because I think they have a little part to play in this whole thing too. Since they're the ones who recommended Cyber. Okay, thank you. All right, item 3, county assessing and local appraisers. Did you guys see the letter that Tony Rasmussen sent out? If not, here's a copy of it.
Email.
And I think there was some miscommunication, misunderstanding. I didn't realize this was going to go out until at least we had seen something ahead of time. And the minutes had been approved, which the minutes had not been approved yet. I'm trying to figure out how to proceed with this. I do know I got a call from Steve Bott from the city of St. Michael, which has their own employees. And the city of St. Michael has a very secured system. I'm not sure how that works into with the RIT system with their security issues. I don't know what, I want to ask Mr. Bott to come up and and discuss your concerns.
Thank you, Chair and Board. Appreciate you having me here. This was an item that really caught the city by surprise and was a complete blindside to us. We, in fact, have hired another assessor recently, property appraiser, to try to keep up with the demand and the growth. They've always done a great job. I believe worked well with the county assessor. As IT department has continued to make changes, we've tried to be patient, tried to offer services, tried to do what we can. But at the end of the day, having this without discussion is very much in contrary to past partnerships. We've got a lot of great partnerships with the county, whether it be the sheriff's department or highway projects, things like that. There's always a discussion, there's always a notice, there's always some meetings, some things when the city's impacted. To expect without notice that our assessors, which I'm told about 50% of their time is spent entering things into the computer, about 50% in the field, would drive multiple times a day back and forth between Buffalo and St. Michael is just complete inefficient waste of taxpayer dollars, and is just frankly not feasible. With that, there's also concern. I've heard that there's concerns for security issues. I question whether those, our IT guys said we're much more secure with all the firewalls at City Hall than the county employees working from home. So I question why that would be a big concern for city employees, but somehow isn't for the county folks that work from home, knowing that there's continued progress towards working from home, people having a little more flexible schedules, things like that due to the pandemic. This seems like a step backwards. I understand there's some more concerns with this new system that I learned today. Cost $52,000, and I would be concerned as well if you're buying a new system that has more security concerns than the old system. Talked to a number of different counties, different cities that work in different counties, Hennepin County being one, Edina, St. Louis Park, I know Meeker County, all have similar systems where the city employees are actively using the county appraising property management system without any issues or security concerns. So again, wondering why that works there, can't work in Wright County. But overall, again, without notice, without discussion, it appeared these decisions were made, and I'll let that email that I forwarded to you stand on its own merits. That came from the county appraiser without any discussion or conversations with the city. Lastly, I understand there's a push or a desire to go whole county appraising. We have a couple employees that would be greatly affected by that. The county budgets would be greatly affected by that. It's a big deal, a big discussion. Again, decisions and discussions are being had without any public notice, without any discussions with the people most affected, the city employees, our city taxpayers that, and our city council, frankly, for that matter, that are also elected to make those decisions. So respectively, I have grave concerns about not only how this went down, but that there'd be a professional and respectful discussion and decisions going forward, and that we'd work together rather than what seems to be something very, very divisive going on between, for whatever reason, the county appraiser's office and the contract or the outside agencies that are doing appraising and have frankly done so for many, many years, very successfully to my knowledge until last Tuesday, I guess.
All right, thanks. Commissioner Vetch?
Mr. Chair, I share some of the same sentiment that you have in regards to that letter going out prior to the minutes being approved, because I think there was some ambiguity as to what was communicated and what was decided in the workshop the previous week. I know we do need to have a lot more discussions on this. At this time, I would like to direct staff to send a letter out kind of putting a pause on the previous communication so that we can circle back and look at what other options we have in terms of mitigating the liability and technical risks. Because I think there's our counterparts across the state are doing this still and allowing their municipalities to do it, and even privateers, and are not having overwhelming concerns. So I don't think we've done enough of our due diligence to find out other options. So I guess I would make a motion that we would send a letter out, kind of asking them to put a pause on that previous communication, and then circle groups together between staff and the private assessors and those of the city of St. Michael to have further discussions.
Commissioner Houston?
I would agree with Commissioner Vetch, and also just to clarify, in the recommendation about just finding out, what it would essentially cost with, if you were bringing, more of the assessments in-house, it was not saying that we're doing that. It was to find out, what the cost would be for the county. So just as a clarification for that, not to say we're getting, we're eliminating local assessors.
So is that a second?
Yes, I will second that with that comment.
All right,
Sorry.
motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussions? Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address this concerns?
Good morning. My name is Ken Yeager, and I'm representing, I work for Silver Creek, Corona, Delno, and Maple Lake, and I just want to second what St. Michael said. And from our standpoint, if a decision's made, we hope it's made kind of at the end of your budget process, so that because we start making commitments in the fall for the next cycle, and the cycle always starts July 1st. And so I've made commitments to these townships and cities to do the work, and now, if he said the extra driving, and my schedule usually is I go out, I work during the day, and then I get home about 4:30, and then I input for 2-3 hours. So that would mean I'd have to be input and then maybe go out after 4:30, but until dark. But so that's just kind of backing up what the city of St. Michael said. As far as, I talked to some of the people at the cities and townships, and they didn't have much to say because they were kind of caught off guard too. So any questions or?
No, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
Matt?
Morning, Chair, Commissioners. My name's Tom Praska, and I'm a local assessor for Middleville Township and Albion Township. It's my income, I guess, where I provide for my family, but I guess my biggest part of this situation is, if I can, I'll go out, let's say at 8 o'clock in the morning, and let's say I'm busy in the afternoon, so in the evenings, a lot of times I'll put my data entry in, or on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, or even holidays when you guys are closed, but some of us still have to work. So that eliminates a lot of our accessible time to the county, because they're only going to let us come in here, from 8 to 4:30. And so that's a major concern, for all of us, everybody involved here. So I just wanted to bring that forward, that it would really reduce our chance of getting into the office and putting all the data entry in. And we do almost all of our own, data entry. We have to. I mean, that's part of our contract. Tony has other obligations, that he has to do certain aspects of, but he's not doing our job for us. So thank you for your time.
I don't want to get down into minutia right now, so I think we'll move this to a committee of whole in the future and invite all those people in for that purpose.
Good idea.
Matthew, is there anything that regarding the security you want to state at this time at all, or you want to wait till we have a committee of the whole regarding it?
I don't have any problems putting out my general thoughts. I assume everybody online can hear me from here. I can be louder.
Well, you're good.
I fully understand the difficulty of the situation. When I was hired a year and a half ago, one of the reasons I was brought in was because I had an extensive cybersecurity background. United States Department of Defense Information Security Officer, Kabul, Afghanistan, Resident Support Headquarters. Many of the issues that we have persisted for a long time. Unfortunately, and I do understand the difficulty in this, because we've done something wrong for a long time doesn't necessarily make it right. Having people external to county employeeship, if we were to hire a contractor, they would come in with legal documentation. They have their own cybersecurity insurance. They come in with a number of different things and we give them access to our network. That doesn't exist in this situation, and it is a difficult scenario. But the reality is there are cybersecurity rules and guidelines that I have to follow because the responsibility falls on my shoulders. And having external parties, and it doesn't really matter who they are, that aren't county employees, don't fall under our cybersecurity insurance, things of this nature, creates difficulties. And I'm proud to say we have made significant gains in our cybersecurity assessment. We just finished one from the previous one. We're making a lot of progress, but this is an untenable situation in the long run. The idea of bringing people inside was to fix the security issue. Right now, yes, I totally understand that there is no effective difference between somebody here working from home and a county employee working from home. The difference is the person working from home as a county employee falls under my supervision. It's the continual monitoring process. If Greg were to show erratic behavior, I would cut his network security off. I may have thought about it in the past 5 years. But there are things like that fall into cybersecurity, continual monitoring. I need to see people. I need management to see people. I need to know things. These things can't happen in this sort of hybrid environment. And I tried to come up with the best scenario that I could think of, which was simply to come inside the building. There are external factors. We did the math. It costs about $600 a month on average for software, hardware, tech support, things of this nature per assessor. But that's my concern is predominantly the security side. And you can be in the most secure environment. It really doesn't matter. What matters is the umbrella of security that I provide. And if you're outside of that, that creates a problem for me.
Okay, so when we have our meeting, I'm sure our risk person, Tim Dahl, will also be involved in it too. Did you have a question, Steve?
No, I just wanted to clarify that if there's a problem, let's try to find a solution and actually deal with the problems and what the solutions would be, rather than a complete throw the baby out with the bathwater type of decision. So I'm concerned that's the first we've ever heard that that's a big problem. Our IT folks are more than happy to work with them. The implications that county employees are more trustworthy than city employees is a concern.
And I don't think...
We have personnel policies, we have background checks.
And I don't think
these are things we could work through.
And it's not a question of trustworthiness.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to call the question. This is getting a little bit into more of the deeper discussion, so I'm going to call the question, Mr. Chair.
And he's got another meeting he's got to get to. So Steve, we will give you at least 2 or 3 hours notice.
That would be better than after the fact.
Just blame him, remember, not me, him.
Did you have something?
So I was going to say, Mr. Chair, I think to manage expectations of the timeline going forward, next board meeting, the 25th, we'll put on an agenda item to schedule this meeting to have this. Prior to that, I think it's wise for staff on our side to gather some of their concerns and articulate potential solutions or talking points to that in order to facilitate that meeting. So I guess timeline-wise, in my brain, having not said it, I would think that that would take place in probably mid-June. Does that sound workable?
I think so. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Vetch?
Vetch votes aye.
Ketchmark votes aye.
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 And what did I just agree to?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the item number 3 from the workshop.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any other discussions? Hearing none. Commissioner Vetch?
Vetch votes aye.
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 All right. More to come. Commissioner Vetch has to leave, so the Finance and CIP Committee, I'm going to let him go ahead of everybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. Unfortunately, today I've got myself booked every second of the day. Last week on May 12th, the Finance CIP Committee met. We had a large discussion regarding cash flow and what is the amount of cash that we need to have on hand at any given time, as there is higher demand for cash on hand at certain periods of the time versus others. Typically, our greatest need for cash on hand is usually the months of March, April, and it's usually somewhere between the tune of $14 to $18 million. We've had a discussion about the fund balance in the whole, and that understanding what we need for cash flow will help us to get better utilization of our investments so that we can have some of our larger amounts of funds tied up in long-term investments. So we were instructing Mr. Hevela to kind of look at creating a ladder of investments with taking the larger chunk in the $30 to $40 million and putting them in the long-term investment market, where we would keep more of a $10 million in the midterm of like 6 month to 2 year investments, and then keeping the rest of the fund balance in short term in anywhere from 2 to 6 month investments. Currently, we've been getting a return of about 1.6% on our investments, which is much lower than we've had in previous years. And even on a conservative level, we should be able to be in the 1.9 to 2.25, even with the low interest rates and the way the market is at this current time. And that is taking into consideration the level of which we are able to invest, because we have a lot of restrictions in terms of safety levels of what our money can be tied up in. We also then had a discussion regarding debt financing and with the bonds and when they come callable. We have some that are coming callable in 2023, 2024, and then we also have some that are callable in 2027. Through the discussion, it looks like our best interest is to try and call the bonds in 2027, which would have an approximate cost of about $13.5 million, but would save the county about $4.5 million annually in debt service. So that's a goal that we sent forth as a recommendation. Then we also had a discussion about the frequency of meeting. We would like to see this group meet at least twice a year to discuss investments, and we'd like to meet at least another 2 times a year to discuss capital improvement projects. The other item that we discussed was the capital improvement projects. We discussed the IT projects and coming up with kind of a parameter of what funds should be spent or not spent within CIP in technology. The technology projects have kind of grown from year to years, which has caused our technology CIP fund to grow from years to years. And I think it was more the will of the board previously, and maybe a will of the board currently, to kind of put a box around that. And you live within that box. And if you can't get it done this year, you'll wait till next year, or you'll have to save up to get those technology projects done, as the same we do with the physical construction projects. So the recommendation was to meet again before budgets are due to further discuss. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes in the recommendations from the Finance CIP Committee.
I'll second that.
By Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewson. Just to add a couple things, we also found that we had, 3 or 4 checking accounts, Derek?
Oh, yeah.
That is correct.
And then, I don't know if you've seen the annual rate of return history that was sent to us. So like for 2019, and this is again the average rate of return for the whole year, was almost 2.1%. Last year was 1.264%. And so far this year, it's at 0.25%. So again, these are just the annualized, so it's really not accurate on the 21, but so far it's, not looking good at this point. But it is what it is with the interest rates low.
Yeah.
Anything else to add, Commissioner Vetch?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I have a motion, a second. Any other discussions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Vetch?
Vetch votes aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. All righty. Back on schedule here, Broadband Committee. We met on May 11th. We talked, and we don't know what we don't know. We're trying to figure out how we can utilize best the broadband infrastructure. What's really necessary, what we need to know is what is out there, who is out there, where it is. We do recommend our residents to go online and do the test so that that information gets out there. The more information we have, the better we can plan for what we want to do. We have a couple of different ideas right now. And we're hoping that, and that the way it looks at this point, that the American Rescue Plan, we can use that money or part of that money for providing some help to our local supplier or local providers, I guess. So right now we're trying to gather a list on who the current providers are in the county are. So Elizabeth Carlos will be contacting all the providers throughout the county to gauge interest in working with us. Fombe will work on scaling back the map, so trying to show us where what is. The survey department will work on creating a map, and our next meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. I didn't realize it was coming that fast.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right, does anybody have any questions on the broadband stuff? For the most part, we don't know what we don't know yet. A lot of information gathering.
Need a motion?
Need a motion and a second.
I will make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve the minutes and the action items for the agenda for the next meeting.
A second.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Wetter. Derek, do you have anything else to add to that?
I guess the biggest thing that we want to consider at this time is the sooner we can get going on a feasibility study to really kind of help us map out where the broadband is currently in the county and where it is not. I think if we would start going out and trying to solicit somebody to conduct a feasibility study would give us a lot of the information that we need to begin the next steps. I guess that's something that either we can discuss tomorrow in the broadband committee or we can discuss now. I just wanted to kind of get that in front of the board as something we need to consider.
Anybody else have any questions for Derek? Yeah, hopefully we'll have some additional information after tomorrow's meeting. Unfortunately, it's not a simple fix out there.
And it's very expensive.
Yeah, and as Derek was saying, we need to move on this fairly soon. Just trying to connect the county buildings, they would not be able to do anything until this fall.
Oh.
They're that far out.
Oh.
So, and that's
Interesting.
assuming everything went perfectly, that we had the drawings and all the information, so. We're looking at some time because everybody else is gonna be doing this too.
Oh, sure.
All right. We got a motion, a second. Commissioner Vetch?
Vetch votes aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Hewsome,
All right.
Ways and Means Committee.
The Ways and Means Committee met on May 12th, 2021. Members present, Hewsome Wetter, also Lee Kelly, Sheriff Derringer, Shauna Othman, Matthew Fomby, Brian Asselson, John Haller, Sean Johnson, Greg Kreiser, and Lindsey Meyer. And the subject was the sheriff's contract rate for the cities for 2022 and 2023. We got the rates back from 1971 to the current, and Office Administrator Shauna Othman explained that the sheriff's contract with the cities is for them to operate, that don't have their own police departments, and we've discussed the contract rate for the last few years with the committee, and went over the new rate. Since 2004, on average, the rate has increased by 3.5%, which averages about $2.05 per hour. The sheriff's contract rate is currently at $81.75, and they recommend a 3% increase for 2022, which means $84.20. For 2023, it would be a 3.0% increase for a rate of $86.75. And Othman said that generally the budget comes in right where it should be, and even ahead sometimes helps when unexpected things come up through the year. And also, you know, all the departments, we can't always predict what's going to happen. So there are budget transfers that happen as need be. So we thanked the sheriff and his deputies for the great work they do. And when the rate becomes official, they will send the letter to the cities. Anyway, the recommendation is the sheriff's office is recommending a 3% increase for 2022, a 3.02% for 2023. And with that, I will make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any other discussions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Commissioner Vetch?
Vetch votes aye.
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 Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to forego my advisory committee minutes till next week. I'll come back with a bigger information because I have to leave here at this time for another meeting.
Okay, I was going to let you go first, but as long as you want to leave us, that's fine.
I apologize. I've really booked tight today. I'll have more information. Thank you, everyone.
Yep, have a good day. Mr. Ketchmark?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Committees or boards, one meeting we had was the solar work group met, discussed same or similar items as in the past: water mitigation, weed control, decommissioning, the production tax that is attached to these sites, and basically scheduled another meeting for June. And that's all I had.
All right.
You got all these papers. I'm going to give you 3 minutes.
I'll be quick. So the law library had our annual meeting. We received the report with all the inventory, all the books and that kind of thing. The law library actually has been quite busy. They've been helping with the Zoom trials. So they'll work with people that don't have maybe a computer and that kind of thing, and so they come into the law library, and they've been doing some work with them. They did not actually have anyone attend the law library on Law Day, but they had 29 volunteers, attorneys signed up for approximately 100 participants. So in total, 69 free one-on-one consultations with an attorney were held over 3 clinics throughout the day. So there was, they were able to take care of some warrants and that kind of thing. The law library is just a real wonderful resource for people that they can go in and get, you know, that they're not, don't get specifically, they're not attorneys, they can't do that, but they can help them find all the resources that they need for whether it's, you know, child support or whatever it is. And then Safe Communities of Wright County met last Friday, and we have had some discussion about Highway 29. There's been, or excuse me, 39 complaints from Monticello to Otsego and that center turn lane. People are using it as a passing lane. So just discussing, you know, how we get the word out that no, that's not a passing lane, it's a center turn lane. Of course, certainly if you need to go around a stopped vehicle, you know, you can go, I mean, anywhere, you know, if there's no one coming, if you need to cross over a solid line. So just to keep that in mind. And we're trying to coordinate the Wright Road and the Wright Road for teens. With last year, everything being pretty much closed, things were slow, but.
Did you say the Wright Road?
Wright Road for teens, it used to be.
Oh, Wright Road, oh, I was just
Right.
wondering, because I thought all of our roads in the county were right.
You are right, they are all right,
Okay.
so. But also, the parent-teen responsible driving also, they're trying to coordinate classes for 2 of the schools. And they've got posters that give our, you know, help with distracted driving and to get the word out for them. Right now, the posters have been at Fleet Farm. They are pretty much in the employee areas, but if during the, they have break or whatever, they can kind of read some statistics. The crash car is going to different schools also, so that was a fatality that happened last year. And to give people a real visual of, you know, what what happens if you're distracted and you cross over the center line and unfortunately someone is killed. And the State Patrol is doing a big speed saturation from July 1st to the 31st. They did a serious injury committee review, and there was one motorcycle crash up in, it was actually Clearwater Township, but fortunately no fatality. And also getting some information about this now, but there's going to be a local Heroes Day on August 19th, 20th, and 21st. That's a Thursday through Saturday in Monticello. And that will be the first annual one, and more to come on that.
That's it? You done?
Yeah, unless you want me to start going through the.
No, it's all right. Parks Department met last night, and we got the 2020 annual report, which you guys will, I'm sure will be receiving shortly. We turned down 2 different people that wanted to sell property to the Parks Department, and one of them was an island.
Oh, is that on,
On Mink.
on Mink?
Yeah, the Humphrey Island, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of neat, but
It would,
unfortunately, it's not very accessible.
How do you get services out there if there's an emergency? Yeah.
No, it's not. It's just not anything that the county or the Parks Department has any interest in.
Yeah.
Unless they want to donate it.
Oh, they
And
want-
even then it'd be questionable.
Make a trail to it.
Way back, they said
Okay.
that you could walk to that. It was, you know, way back during the drought. It was
I
not an
suppose,
island.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Was a peninsula
Yeah.
you're talking, yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's interesting, the history of it. My understanding is the reason it's called Humphrey Island is because Hubert Humphrey had a place built on there.
Okay.
And that's why they call it
Really?
Humphrey Island.
We used to camp and things out there. I mean, there was campgrounds.
Yeah, well, there's a building out there
Somewhere.
on the island.
I don't think it's ever a big island. I mean, it's not real big.
It was 17 acres.
Ooh, that's,
You know, good, nice size, yeah.
Yeah, and Commissioner Wetter, if you're interested in buying it, I can tell you what the price is, offline here.
oh, okay. Well, I suppose he wanted to be isolated, so.
Yeah, 17 acres. So yeah, it's a lot bigger than what you think.
You talk about safety issues.
All right,
Okay, this month I dedicated it, Mondays and Tuesdays to finally visiting my cities and townships. So far I've gone to Hanover and Rockford, City of Rockford, and Albertville, and I'll be in Rockford Township tonight. And next Tuesday I'll be in St. Michael. You heard about the Dental Steering Committee already. And then on the 6th, was on the Central Minnesota Council on Aging. Talked a little bit about the Older Americans Act and approved some supplemental funding requests due to the increased demand for homemaker and chore requests and also transportation reimbursements. And Wright County Community Action did get some of that money that was extra. After that, we broke into small groups to brainstorm because this council wanted to have a little bit more information on what the needs were out there. And first of all, we had 3 questions to answer, and one was the main challenges in the future for our seniors. And for instance, we came up with social isolation, broadband access, Matt, and also technical help on that stuff. So also affordable housing, safety, and then transportation. And then the next question was, what was this council's role in meeting these challenges? And talked about advocacy, leadership, education, partnership, and technical assistance, just a few of the things that got discussed. Then May 10th, I was at the SWCD, and one of the members had gone to a meeting and came up with the 2017 census for agriculture, actually in Wright County, Minnesota. And I have a few extra copies if anybody's interested. Yeah, it's 2017. That's how quick the USDA gets their numbers together and makes a form. So that's, if you are interested, I've got some extra copies. Also, the state association put out a request for resolutions, so we're going to be doing budgeting, but I suppose they're looking more at how they can change the system out there. So.
Who are you referring to? SWCD?
SWCD, the state association. And there was lots of discussion on AIS, or aquatic invasive species, as usual. My favorite subject, not. And they're going to buy an auxiliary water tank for out in the decontamination deal, so that I guess they've run out of water a few times, so they're going to get an extra tank.
That's good that it's being utilized then.
Yes.
In the Annandale?
Yes, at Annandale. And then, of course, you all want to hear about the One Watershed, One Plans. And so far, the Mississippi St. Cloud, One Watershed, One Plan, they probably aren't going to have their application in on time for any money because, of course, there's still dissension amongst the staff on all the different people that are involved in it. The South Fork Crow River, One Watershed, One Plan, they're going to just put in the same application that they did before. And then the North Fork One Watershed, since Wright County, or the Wright SWCD is the fiscal agent, they actually approved some funding for 8 projects. And that would be 6 cover crops, a berm, and a wetland restoration. And they also, they had their tree week, and that was very successful. They sold over 50,000 bundles, and that's of 25 trees in a bundle.
Wow.
So that was quite a few trees that went out. You already heard about the Ways and Means, so that's the end of my report.
Ready? Administrator Kelly.
Thank you, sir. A lot of the meetings, very busy week last week with just county meetings. We've certainly had a big set of minutes from both broadband, Ways and Means, Finance, EDA, of course, being a part of all of those. Spoke earlier in the meeting about the progress on ERP. We have continued discussions in identifying vendors to move that forward, and we'll come forward with a proposal on that as one is reached. So continuing the discussions with various vendors as well as with Oracle and their recommendations on moving forward there. One thing I should note is we're working on a digital signatures project for our board-related things. I think you may have participated in a demo or a test that we did a few weeks ago. So we're going to run it again this week again to try it, and then hope to use that as our standard moving forward. In the last 2 weeks, we've certainly had a lot of experience retire in the administration office. Judy Brown left us after being with the county since 1989, I believe it was, and Sue Virgin retired last Friday after being with the county since 2014. So Zach Robidoux will be a new HR rep starting as of tomorrow. Zach comes to us from Elk River. Prior to that, worked at Renville County. And during the meeting, I did find out I'd made an offer and got the background and accepted for the assistant administrator role to Holly Wilson of Mille Lacs County. So she is looking to tentatively start on the 21st of June. So,
HR person, did you say they came from the city of Elk River or from Sherburne County? Or they just live in Elk River?
School district, actually.
Oh, the school
so
district,
C,
okay.
option C.
No, I'm sorry. I was just hoping we stole somebody back from Tammy, but, you know, it is what it is.
Our numbers are looking good. I know we've gained at least one more from Sherburne in the last.
That's what I've heard, too, yeah.
So
Okay, we're doing okay then? With,
we're not keeping score, are we?
we're not officially keeping track?
There we go. All right, anything else?
No, sir.
Nothing to come before the board. We are adjourned at 10:52.